In this video, we're going to learn how to use TI graphing technology in order to create different graphs. Right now I'm using a TI-84 Plus. This should work with TI-83 or 84 models without any modifications. When you want to sketch a graph, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to enter your function. And we can enter our function here by clicking on the y equals screen. Suppose that I want to graph the function 2x minus 2. I'm just on this y1 equals line. I'm going to enter my equation rule 2x minus 2. So to do that, you're going to hit 2, hit this xt theta n button. That's a quick way to get your variable, 2x minus 2, and you can hit enter. Now, you want to make sure that your screen shows something that you're familiar with. So I usually start by clicking on zoom and choose option 6 down here. For zoom standard, and what that's going to do is it's going to give me a standard window that goes from -10 to +10 in the x and from -10 to +10 in the y. And this is a graph of my function, and I could transfer these over to different points. Notice here I've got a point that crosses my y-intercept at -2. I can put a dot down there at -2. My x-intercept here is at +1. I can put the point 1 there, and I can recreate this graph on another system. So this axis is nice, and that zoom standard works great to go from -10 to +10 in each direction. Let's try looking at some other functions that we might want to graph. Let's say maybe we want to graph this x squared minus 3x minus 2 function. We do exactly the same start. We're going to start by hitting y equals. I don't want to use this function anymore, so I'm going to hit clear, and then I'm going to go ahead and enter the function x squared minus 3x minus 2. Again, I use this xt theta n button for my x. I can actually use the x squared button there to type my squared, minus 3x, hit that x button again, minus 2. And you can hit enter and notice that this is now the function that I'm going to graph. The graphing calculator will always remember the last window settings that you had, so since I hit that zoom standard last time, it's going to continue to give me a graph that goes from -10 to +10 in each direction. Notice here I've got a nice parabola going, and I can locate any of these points here on my graph. So that works out really nice. If you'd ever like to see a more specific point or coordinate of what you're looking at, you can always hit this trace button right here and use the arrow keys. Notice that there's that little X right here. What it's doing is it's tracing along different locations on your graph, and you can see the X coordinates and Y coordinates down here. So this way you can kind of follow along and get a good idea of what's going on in terms of coordinates if you ever want a better look at what's going on. Let's try another equation. So that's kind of a quadratic equation-y sort of thing. Let's see what other kinds of equations we have here on this sheet. Ooh, an exponential equation here. Let's do this 4 times 2 to the x power. If we want to do 4 times 2 to the x power, again, the first thing you want to do is click here on the y equals screen, delete out any functions. I guess we can hit clear, that gets us there fast. Clear out any functions that you don't want to use, and now we're going to type in the function that we see here. Notice it's 4 times 2 to the x power. So 4 times 2, you use this little caret key for the exponent, and then we want to hit our x variable button. We can hit enter here, and we can click on the graph button. And see here we have a nice graph. It crosses at 0, it crosses at 4, and we can get this really nice family of exponential graph functions that are going on there. And this sort of thing works for whatever. Let's go ahead and try this 6 over x key. We can clear out anything that we see, and then let's say we want to do 6 divided by x. So we can write it just like this, 6 divided, hit that little x button, hit enter, and then hit graph. And these ones where you have an x in the denominator always make these super funky graphs. Notice it, like there's nothing defined at 0 and the graph goes totally crazy. It's pretty awesome. And that's really the basic gist of everything that you'd want to do. If you want to do x cubed, we can hit the y equals button again, clear out the equation, type this little x button here, and this time if we want it to the 3rd power, we can hit the caret button for the exponent, the cubed, and graph. Ta-da! So this all works really great. If you ever want, for example, all of these functions here, notice that I've always been able to go and see something nice on my screen between -10 and +10 in each direction. But if you ever want to, let's say, make your graph taller or wider, we can change that functionality by clicking on the window button. Here, notice that this is what is the left-handmost x coordinate that you see, what's the right-handmost x coordinate you see. Here we can change what's the smallest y coordinate that we see and the biggest y coordinate that we see. So you can go in and type and change these for whatever you like and then hit the graph button. And the calculator will always remember whatever settings it had in there last. If you ever do crazy things and just want to get back to normal, again, remember you can always hit zoom and choose Z standard, that option 6 on there, and that will get back and get you your coordinates between -10 and +10 in both the x and the y direction. A couple of other things that maybe to point out here, let's see, on the y equals, if you want to plot the square root of x, the square root button is located here by the x squared, and you can hit that. Oh, it looks like I didn't clear everything out very good because I still had a power on there, so let's try that again. Square root of x, we can hit the graph button. And notice that there's nothing here to the left, and that's because we can't have negative x values inside the square root because that gives us imaginary numbers. So we can see kind of some cute things there. Sometimes you want to take other roots like cube roots. We can find a cube root button. So if we go to our y equals screen again, we can find a cube root button under the math button here. So notice that we have like option 4 there is cubed root. You can choose that cubed root button like that. And so here, for example, I can graph the cubed root of x. And there it is. So it's kind of a funky cubic equation kind of laying on its side. We could also graph that same exact function by saying that we wanted to take x to the 1/3 power. Remember, fractional exponents and cubed and roots are the same. So we can find a cubed root by typing something to the 1/3 power, and notice that gives us exactly the same graph. So it's just another way that we can enter the same value on your calculator. Let's see. I think that should get you through pretty much everything that you need. And yeah, so y equals is your home base. You can change window sizes on window. And then when you're ready to graph whatever your equation is, push the graph button. Hope that helps.